Hi, good afternoon. Good morning, sorry. It's Thursday, July 9th, 2015. My name is Marcie Schoenfeld. I'm in the home of Frank Dan George, who we'll be interviewing today on behalf of the Jewish Historical Society, but this is for the Library of Congress's program. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning. Glad you came.
No. We stop now.
Okay, good, fine.
Okay. Although this is for the Library of Congress, we need to do some background information. Where and when were you born?
3/27/21
Where?
in Breslau,
And where? That is where?
in Germany,
What part of Germany?
Silesia.
Okay. What did your parents do in Germany?
My father was a newspaper correspondent, and I grew up in my grandfather's house because he had to work in the city.
Mm. Did your mother with you or with your father?
On and off.
Okay. And did you go to public schools in Germany?
Grade school and junior high school, yes.
Okay.
Until I was 10 years old in Lichterfelde in Berlin, and we had Hitler Youth there. It was 1932, and it's a suburb of Berlin, and we used to ride the bicycle to this junior high school, and one day I was riding home to my grandfather's house on the bike. A guy put a stick in the front wheel. I went over the top and knocked out my front tooth, and I was 11 years old. And my parents, my grandfather's house, they took me to the dentist, took half my front tooth off, was my second tooth, and I lived with that half a tooth in the middle of my face, even through my first years in the American Army. And my folks decided that I couldn't stay in Berlin, and they knew somebody, and they sent me to South Germany, Herlingen, where Anna Essinger had a private school where it was safe for me to go to school. So I left at 11 years old.
At the school, did they know you were Jewish?
Most of them were Jewish, but she had been in this country, Anna Essinger, a Quaker in this country in 1898. She'd come back to Germany in 1918, help with food, the Quaker inflation and so on. And when the Nazis decided to run up the swastika on all schools in Germany, private or public, on April 1st, 1933, she said, "I'm not going to do it." And this school had about at least 60 kids, including me. And she said to my parents, if I'm going to close the school, I'm not going to run up the swastika. And so if you want to, you can stay till the summer. I'm closing the school April 1st, and then I'll reopen the school in England. And if you want your kids to come to England with me, I'll take them with me. So my story is then that I stayed in the school until June. My mother met me and my sister. I have a younger sister in Switzerland in September, and we had a 3-week vacation at Lago Lugano, Lake Lugano, just north of Italy. And then we had a teacher at who had been a Protestant minister at this private school in Germany, in Basel. And he took us, when we went from in Switzerland, went to Basel, he took us on a night train, a 12-hour trip, and to take us to England. And October 1st I was back in school, in this new, what now called New Hurlingen School, Bunce Court. She was able to get an old manor house converted for the girls, and they built a barracks for us boys, and that's where I got my high school education in England. A long story.
Did most of the kids go there too from the original 60, or only a few of them?
Well, it was a small school, so 20, 30, 40 kids, private school. So
Okay.
some of us made it and some of us didn't.
Right. One of the things you showed us was being denied your German citizenship. Can you tell us that story?
Well, it's only in that paper that it gives the date when they denied me my citizenship.
So were you in England at the time that they did that?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they revoked your citizenship.
Yes, it says the date on the piece of paper that I have.
Okay.
So,
What did you do after you finished school in England?
well, I went to this private school. In England, you graduate from high school at age 16. And you what you call matriculate. And my mother went to, my father is very, very well known, by the way. And somebody here from Germany the other day, they're going to do a big thing for him.
Wow.
Next year in Germany. He was the editor of Aufbau for 50 years. He was a newspaper man and a writer and so on. And he, in the Jewish history, the Aufbau was the medium where refugees kept contact with each other, whether they fled to Shanghai and this and that and the other. And it's still published today, 60 years after he did it. It was a German Jewish club in New York. It was a club newspaper that only came up once a month and once every 2 weeks. Then it became a weekly under his guidance, and it's being still published monthly today in Switzerland. I still get it, and this is, 60 years later. It's called Aufbau, which means building up, and deals with what happens to the Jews around the world. And I have it downstairs. I still get it in the mail, and I still give it to friends on a sub.
Is it in German?
It's German, has 3 or 4 English pages. And the editor was, who has been editing it in Switzerland now, he comes from Mystic, Connecticut.
Small world. Did your mother go with you to England, or she stayed behind?
No, my father went with a backpack over the border. He fled from Berlin in '33. And my mother went there, she stayed with him. And then they came to New York in '38. And I came here in '39.
Okay. Did they have trouble getting into the United States? Do you know?
At the time, I don't know about that, because they had a limited list of who could get into this country. And I came in on the day the war started, September 1, 1939, wow, from England. And I went back to be in the army in 1943, in the American Army. I was an enemy alien. My passport had a swastika in it, and the Americans drafted me anyway.
Okay, how old were you when you were drafted?
In '43, I was, if I was born in '21, I was 22, I guess.
Okay, and what were you doing before you got drafted? School, a job?
Yeah, I was going to, when I came from England in '39, I had already worked in an architect's office and gone to night school. But I had flunked in England, there are only 2 colleges, Cambridge and Oxford, and you take a matriculation exam, a 3-day exam, and I flunked one day and I couldn't make it. So I had no papers, nothing, but I had worked in an architect's office, I'd gone to night school. I worked 10 hours a day when I was 16 in architect's office and night school, London Polytechnic Institute.
Okay. When you were drafted, where were you sent?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Oh, so you stayed local. All right.
Yes.
And what did they put you in? What branch?
They didn't know what to do with me because I spoke French and German and I was an enemy alien and I had a swastika in my passport. Didn't give a damn about that. After, I don't know if you know, when you get drafted in the army, they try to evaluate what outfit you're best suited for. And the guy couldn't figure out what the hell to do with me. It was my language background and my swastika and my passport and not a citizen and so on. So after 30 days, they give this, you stay there 5 days a week and you can go to your home to your parents on the weekend. And after 30 days, because the guy, they don't know what the hell to do with you, they put me on a train for an 18-hour trip to Mississippi. Camp Van Dorn in Georgia, and one was Camp Wheeler, Mississippi, or Camp Van Dorn, Mississippi.
Do you know if those camps are still in existence?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
But they teach you, you're private in the Army, and I was not a citizen, World War II, 43. But I did, once a week you do KP, from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 at night. The war had barely started and they didn't even have barracks, we lived in tents. And this is in Mississippi. And after 8 weeks in Mississippi, one day they said, we're going to CAMA. And CAMA stands for California, Arizona Maneuver Area. And I said, oh God, I'm headed for the Japanese. At that time, we were fighting on these islands after Pearl Harbor and so on. And I'm out, we're going out there on an overnight trip. And you're a private in the Army, you're just nothing, you know.
Lower than low.
And then on a freight car. And they...
Can I interrupt a minute? Let's go back to Mississippi. Mississippi, I know friends of my, my friends' parents found a lot of anti-Semitism when they were stationed in Mississippi. Did you come
Never
across
encountered any anti-Semitism.
Did you see racism at all?
I never encountered any anti-Semitism in the American Army.
Okay.
Never.
Did you practice the holidays or food? Did you kosher?
No.
Okay, so.
And I don't remember meeting any Jews in the Army.
And my friend's parent, they wanted to know where his horns were on his
Where's
head.
what?
His horns were. They know the picture of David. They wanted to know
really?
Moses, I guess. They wanted to know. Yes. Okay. So when you went from Mississippi.
Am I going too fast?
No. I just was asking about the answer. So you went from Mississippi to.
Are you recording it? Good.
When you went from Mississippi to California, right?
We went from Mississippi to Georgia.
Georgia, and then to the west.
Yes.
How long time period was that? Do you remember? And what did you do in Georgia?
I learned how to fire a weapon.
Was that your basic training was in Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. So after you finished basic, they sent you out west.
Yeah, they sent us out west because the war was going on in the west.
Okay.
In Japan.
All right. So you expected to be sent out to the Pacific? Was that what you?
That's what I expected.
Okay.
That's
And
where I was going.
what was your training? Just infantry or?
Infantry.
Infantry. Okay. And what happened when you were out west?
Well, we were in this area called CAMA, California, Arizona Maneuver Area, which is a desert outside Indio, south of LA. And I was hearing how we took all those casualties in the Pacific. I wasn't looking forward to going to one of those islands and so on. So life is unpredictable, and I got a weekend pass, and the commanding officer of the outfit, Colonel King, on the maneuvers. He was in charge of this group. He's you got a weekend pass. He knew that we were going to get into combat, and I figured here we were going to head for Japan, and I was done for because we weren't winning the war. And it was a Saturday morning. In the army, you get a weekend off when you're on what they call basic training, and you get. So Indio. I don't know. You know where Indio is?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Near Palm Springs.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, it's like an hour from LA, and where I was. And I got a weekend pass, and I hitchhiked. I'm a private into Indio to get into LA for the weekend, and I met a guy on the road who was also hitchhiked 6 o'clock in the morning, and the commanding general. That came a little after. Anyway, so we're hitchhiking into Indio to get to LA for the weekend. And I met a guy on the road hitchhiking. And when you hitchhike in the army, you go a 6x6. You know, 6x6 is a truck that's open truck. Mm-hmm. And they gave us a ride, and then I made it up into LA, and that's on a Saturday morning, and you got to get back by Monday morning, or you're in deep shit, you know. So I met this guy on the road, who happens to be also a German Jewish guy. We're the only people on the road in the desert trying to hitch a ride for the change for a weekend. And I met this guy, and he happened to also have a German Jewish background. And he said, you know what, I'll tell you something. The colonel who was running the maneuvers, he's in charge of the whole 4th Corps, he said, he liked you better than me. I'll never forget that. So I said, why? Well, you'll find out, So my nanny, my former nanny from Berlin, she lived in North Hollywood. And she's still in love with my father. We were very close, but she was. And I got into LA, hitchhiking. I got up into Hollywood, and I had a weekend pass. Then I got back on Monday morning, and as he said, you got to make sure you get back to report back on duty. So I went to see the commanding officer, which happens to be Colonel King. And he was in charge of the maneuvers. I don't know why it was I didn't have a general. But anyway, I went to see Colonel King at 8 o'clock sharp. I'll never forget it. We had the tents, nothing in the desert. So I came in and I said, Colonel, I met this guy, and he said, you like me better than him. Is that what he said? Yes, sir. Well, what are your qualifications? So I told him my qualifications were that I'd worked in an architect's office, and I knew how to draft, and that I'd taken a course my last course at Pratt. I went to school at Pratt in camouflage. And that course had been given by a German, Konrad Wittmann. He was our professor. Was a 3-month course in camouflage, and camouflage is what you do in the army to hide the weapons and all. So Colonel King said to me, "The guy's right. I like you better than him." I said, "Yes, sir." "Did he tell you that we're leaving here on Friday?" "No, sir." "Where are we going?" I said, "Oh my God." He said, "Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'll take you with me." "Yes, sir." "I'll give you time off to say goodbye to your parents." "Yes, sir." "Okay. So 15 minutes, but you make sure you get your ass back here on Friday. This is Monday morning, because we're leaving here on Friday. Sharp. You get back here." So I said, "Okay, yes, sir." And I'm back in the desert. It's out in the desert. Hitchhiking back into LA, back up into Laurel Canyon, up to my nanny. She got me on an American Airlines flight to New York the same day, round trip. And I went back to see my parents. I said goodbye to them. I spent 4 days in Manhattan. I went back to California. I was back on Friday morning, 8 o'clock, in a freight train headed for North Africa, in 5 days. And I was strictly a private, dishing out soup into mess kits from the freight train in big buckets. That's how we went to North Africa.
Were you in Patton's army in North Africa?
No.
Oh.
He was on the other. Patton was over. We landed in Oran.
Oh.
No, it was a 5-day trip across the Atlantic from South Carolina. It was a very rough journey in November.
And let's go back for a minute to the barracks. I mean, life must have been very tough for you on the in the desert. How did you get
No
accustomed
barracks.
to
They
it?
didn't
I
have
know,
anything.
I meant the tents. But how did you adjust to that kind of living? Was it really tough for everyone?
Well, all you have is a sleeping bag.
Oh, not even, you said you had a tent, no tents?
They had some tents.
Oh, but
Yeah.
you didn't sleep under the tent? You slept in the
No, I think I slept in
tent,
yeah.
yeah. But,
I
and how
was-
much training a day did you go through in the desert?
I only got, actually, basic training. You're supposed to get 16 weeks of basic training. I only got 8 weeks. Then they transferred me.
Okay. Did you make friends there in the army?
Yes.
In each of the places you went
Oh
to?
yeah, we were good buddies.
Did you stay in touch with them after?
Yes, I did. After the war,
Yeah.
after I was released from the army, I headed for a year the newsletter for all the guys in my outfit.
Oh.
I edited it monthly. They paid $3 a year, and I mailed it to them.
Great. So when you got to North Africa, where were you stationed?
Well, we just came across the Atlantic,
Right.
and they landed in North Africa.
Uh-huh.
It was a very rough trip because it's in November.
Oh,
And then you get onto a 12-mile trip from Noran to Casablanca. And from Casablanca you get on another ship to Italy.
Okay.
And the Germans, Rommel had been in North Africa, and he was retreating, and we landed, I got on a troop transport and we landed in Naples.
now you're still a private at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when I made PFC.
Okay. But probably in Italy sometime?
Well, I became a corporal, or what they call T5, with technician 5th class, and I never made it beyond that. In the 3 years in the army, I've never more than a corporal.
Okay.
But my luck was that I became very friendly with the commanding officer, because I was in MI-S, Military Intelligence Service.
Okay.
So it didn't matter what your rank was, because in the army you got a TO, you know what that is? No, table of organization.
Ah.
And you only have 3 sergeants, 2 corporals, 4 privates. That's it. In that specific section.
Okay, when did you get into the intelligence work?
Right then and there.
Okay, as soon as you got there, they put you in intelligence?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because of your language skills,
Yes.
I assume.
My language skills and my ability to draw, drafting. So I was actually in a section called OB or BO, Order of Battle. I did through the war, actually, as we fought the Germans, I kept track of their units in front of us. I drew the map of the front lines and what the outfits were that were confronting us. We fought I was with the 5th Army, General Clark, and the 8th Army was on the east side of Italy. We were on the left side.
Okay. Were living conditions better in Italy than they were in the desert for you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And was it dangerous being in Italy, or are you behind the lines far enough?
I was with at that point I was with the Corps headquarters.
Okay.
And there were the American Army only had 2 corps. Each corps had 4 divisions. Like under our command, we had the 85th and the 88th Infantry Divisions, and Japanese outfit, 10th Mountain Division, and it was winter. People were skiing. Yeah, and then the 8th Army was on the east side, going up, fighting the Germans. And it was a very long war, very slow war, because the Germans, we were not attacking them. They very hard. They got stuck in Russia, and the Germans held the high ground. And you take big losses if they are on the top of the hill, and we didn't want to take big losses, so it was a very slow war.
Okay.
Year and a half.
And what would be a typical day for you when you're doing the drafting and all that? You would get to work at what time? And
6 o'clock you get up.
okay, and then you would go to headquarters and spend the time.
Well, you get out and you take turns. You have 12, 1 day a week, 12-hour day, doing KP, getting the food out to the guys in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely nothing. When you were just a private in the army at that time, or what they say, you have no rank.
And when you're doing the intelligence work, what would your days be like?
Well, we didn't really get into that until we got overseas.
I know that, but overseas, in Italy, what would you be doing in the course of a day?
Well, I had a map, showed the front lines, showed the units, and I was in very close, I was in a very close relationship with the commanding officer. And my primary duty was, besides keeping track of where the enemy was and where we were on the map, because I was an architect, I was a draftsman.
Right.
And I had also taken a course in city planning, a camouflage. And so I knew how to draw, and I knew how to read a map. And so I kept track of our troops and their troops. I marked it for the colonel. And in addition to that, I read all the enemy letters, all the prisoners, all the stuff that we picked up from dead bodies, mail from home. We tried to identify the outfits so we knew who was over there, and I read all the letters.
Did you get any good information?
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't know who you're fighting.
Okay.
So that's how I became MIS, Military Intelligence Service. That saved my life.
Now, when you were there, were there any kind of Jewish services or anything?
No,
There was nothing. So,
nothing.
and I assume you didn't have any contact with other Jews except for
No,
ones in
none
the
at all.
military.
None at all.
Okay. There was a story you were telling us about you and the German general. You want to tell us that story? Capturing?
But I didn't, just no.
Oh, I thought you captured it.
I have a photograph of it
Oh, okay.
on the.
But you didn't your division did? Who captured
Yeah,
it?
yeah, when they surrendered.
During the surrender.
I took a photograph of
When
it.
did they surrender?
I don't remember
Okay.
exactly. Different outfits.
Different
They
days?
retreated very slowly.
Uh-huh. So.
I have it on. I have that photograph
Now,
on it.
how
I
long-
mounted it.
Okay. How long were you in this service? Until
Almost
when?
3 years.
When did you get mustered out?
When I got 1st of January 1946.
Okay, and you left from Italy back to New York?
Yes. No,
Okay.
well, I think we came back on the French. I think we went through France to get on. We got on the boat in northern France, I think.
Okay.
American. I don't know.
Now, was all troops on that ship?
Yes.
And you came back to New York? Is that what?
Yeah.
Did you have to report somewhere before you went home? Or did they just let you go home when you got here?
You could just. When I got my discharge, exactly. What I don't really, all I remember, I don't really know when I got discharged. But when I got back to New York after almost 3 years, I remember walking around Manhattan with my uniform on. First 2 weeks, a combat jacket, I still have it. I felt like that was, when you're in the army, all you have is 2 pairs of pants and a jacket. That's all the clothes you got. Shirt, end of story. Some underwear. Yeah, but I couldn't believe it that I was back out in Manhattan, living in my folks' apartment. I had a room. Didn't like it, I tell you.
When you were in Italy, did you hear stories about what was happening in the camps and all that, or did you?
No, we really didn't know anything about the Holocaust or anything. Nothing.
Okay. And you first heard about it once you got home?
Yes.
Okay. There was nothing in like the Stars and Stripes paper, nothing that would indicate anything.
I knew that that they were having camps.
Right.
That the Germans, like my grandfather, I knew
Right.
that they had, and they pretended that they put him in an old age home for Jews, like my grandfather, and that's where he died. I mean, he did not. He didn't go to Auschwitz. I don't think so. That came, the whole issue of I still have it now, I'll show it to you. We found out about the Holocaust much closer to the end of my term. So when the war, we had won the war, do you remember when? 1945.
Right.
May?
April, May, yeah.
May, I think May.
End of April, probably, yeah.
And
Well, that's Europe, and then later.
in Europe, forget about it, yeah. So we put out, we went into Germany, and we published, and I have it. I think it's a very historic document. What the photographs we took of what they did to the Jews. And when we went into Germany, we used it as a handout to tell the Germans what bastards they were, what criminals. That was our, and I sent my copy home, and I have it over here, and I copied it, and it's devastating. And the record, that is the record of what the Nazis did to the Jews. But we didn't really know about Auschwitz. We just knew that they killed them.
Right.
And
What about,
mistreated them.
how about members of your family that didn't leave? Do you know that they?
Well, my family is a whole long others.
She's
I mean, my father is very famous, you know.
Right, but I meant other, like cousins and stuff like that.
My uncle, that's really my other closest relative, left Germany in 1927
Oh, okay.
and went to Israel. It was Palestine.
Right.
And he went to a kibbutz and he worked there. And I saw him with my wife in Jerusalem, and he was 96 years old.
So longevity's in your family.
It is, definitely. I have his DNA. I'm 94.
Right. What about your mom's family? What happened with them? Do you know?
Well, her father went to camp, and well, I really didn't track too many
Okay.
relatives.
Did you join any kind of veterans groups besides that newsletter? Did you know, like Jewish war veterans, anything like
Not
that?
Jewish war. I was with the veterans
Group. Okay.
for a while. Yeah, I went to in Stamford. I went on November 11th in the parade
Ah.
a few times. I put on the old uniform.
You can still get into it. That's something.
I don't know. It's a few years now. I have it downstairs.
Did you have trouble adjusting to life when you came back to New York?
No. I was very unhappy. Yeah, I mean, living in it's like sleeping in the same bed when I was a teenager almost. I couldn't take it. That was terrible.
So what did you do?
Yeah, I was very lonely. The girl that I had corresponded with, Mildred Burney, what did I do? That first, it was difficult, but I got a job, basically. After about 8 weeks, I got a job, and a classmate of mine, and then I'd been an architectural draftsman since I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had never graduated high school. So, 1946 or so, 47, I met my best friend was Vincent Solomita. His father lived on not Canal Street, but anyway, we had been classmates at Pratt. And he worked for the city for 40 years as a garbage collector. He was my best friend. Anyway, I have a photograph of his, a painting he bought here that he made. Anyway, somehow, long story short, I got a job on 86th Street after 6 months in the army, in an office that had designed Rockefeller Center. At last in two names, says Ginet and Sharp, most famous architectural firm. And I had to go make the coffee and run the errands, take
You were a
the
gopher.
I learned how to draft, and I got a terrible desk in their office. They had two offices in New York, the most well-known firm in New York, and Harrison and Abramovitz. they designed Rockefeller Center. And again, in 8-hour days, and I'd save a nickel bus fare, walked all the way back through Central Park home. I'll never forget that. My allowance was 50 cents a week, and I think, I don't know what the hell they paid me. But in the end, when I was there I met, how the hell did I? Well, long story short, I know I can remember some of the details, but I got out of there. Oh no, they got assignment because it was premier firm in New York. It was 1947, and they between 42nd Street and 48th Street on First Avenue. Do you know what they did there?
UN?
Yes. They cleared the entire site. And I got a job in the New York Public Library, and I could see from the window the clearing of the site because we were on 42nd Street. The office was a subsidiary of Harrison Abramovich's office, and that was a premier firm in New York, and the UN made them the architects of the UN headquarters planning office. That's what they call it.
It was Rockefeller land. He donated it.
Is that how it was?
It was, yes.
And so I worked in their office at the UN headquarters for the next 2 years, and I was just very, very lucky. And then when I was there, I met Jules Gregory, who's also, how the hell was it? Anyway, it was just luck through him, and I was the second, he and I were the two only Fulbright scholars to go to France in 1949 in America. And the only reason why, it was just lucky that we got that. Today, to get a Fulbright is worth $10,000, and I mean, it's very difficult. But the long story, November 49, I got married, same year that I had the Fulbright, and I didn't use it because I had a GI Bill of Rights, and a GI Bill for every day in the Army. I had 1 day of education in college, and my wife, and so we took off for Europe, and we got married, and went to Paris, and sacked out in Paris, and I faked it pretty good going to the École des Beaux-Arts, but I finally, when we then got back, I went to Yale on the Fulbright. They accepted everything I'd done in France, and I'd never even graduated high school. I studied Reconstruction in France, and I had a big exhibit at Yale, and the professor there was very nice. They didn't even ask that I flunked high school. I got my master's in city planning at Yale.
I guess it's a lot of it just being in the right place at the right time.
You said it. Yeah, just being luck. I always felt I was lucky.
Yeah. Well, it's to survive we were lucky.
Survival, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
2 last questions.
Yeah, good.
One is, what message would you like to leave for future generations who view this video?
Well, I'm totally unaware of the camera yet. What?
Is there any message that you feel that you would like to leave them? Besides the luck?
Yeah. I think to respect other people for their beliefs and I mean I'm not exceptionally altruistic person. Education is very important. Be a decent person. I don't.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add that I didn't ask you about? Well, I want to end with how you met your wife. How we asked, and had
Coincidence.
another one. Huh? Lucky, huh?
Oh, strictly my best friend. When I came to this country, I was an enemy alien,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and it was a weekend. I lived on $5 a week. I visited this guy Vincent, who had been at Pratt with me in Port Washington, and I'd been on there on the weekend. And Sunday morning, Monday morning, I'd go back to work. I was squeezed into a compartment in Port Washington on the way back to Grand Central, and there were three. I was sitting with three girls, two across from me and one next to me, and one of the girls turned out to be my future wife. And I had a choice of three girls, and one of her sisters we had dinner with last night, who lives in Darien still. And
The other sister is my mother.
and who's your mother?
The other sister.
The other sister is her mother. So, and they were of Italian ancestry, and the father, I was very friendly, was a Mason, and we actually, quite a few years before we got married, and or sex was not in the cards either. It was love, and she loved me, I loved her, and we were married for 62 years. And she was a wonderful artist and sculptor, and we lived in Paris together. We had the first car that the French built after World War II, 4 Chevaux Renault, and for $995 in American dollars, we could buy a new car. And we drove all over Europe, went to Norway, and then visited our relatives in Italy, all over, and we camped out. And after 1 year in France, you could trade it in. Nobody could. They didn't build cars. We got a new 4 Chevaux Renault, and we got our money back after we had driven it all over Europe. They were glad to get it back, and we came back to this country.
All right.
And that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a long story. I tried to.
Thank
Sweden. She was a great poet. There are only two people when she shared the Nobel with somebody else.
Can you tell us what this is?
Oh, I don't know, the different campaigns. I don't remember it. But the 3 stars are for the 3 years in the army.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you had on your uniform, you know. I'm a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. That's a very select group. This is just a regular certificate. The back, I'm sorry, of the photographs mailed home from the war. So the text is always what I wrote on the back of these are the actual photographs I mailed back. That's me standing there in Paris at a hotel when I was a refugee, and when I went to the World's Fair in 1937. My parents had fled Germany, and after the war I came and visited them again. The written stuff is what I wrote on the back after when I made these photographs home. This is me on the right. October 44.
Mm.
Yeah. There was a German commanding general leaving a truck. Yeah. Those are actually the only photographs I have of the war, to tell you the truth. I just did that the other day. That's a truck. This guy, you know, the biggest department store in Germany was Hermann Tietz, and he's the son of the owner. We were in the same outfit. That's all there is. And these are the actual photographs of the... Here I wrote down actually what was on the back of this. This was the actual photograph, the only one I got back, where I had mailed home. And that was what we did after the war. 35. Book, you know, that he wrote. I mean, it's here's this was my this was actual. I have it down 1776. My great-great-grandfather. No, I have one more thing. Thomas Mann. This is my father, and this is Thomas Mann. When he sixth century, 6 decades. They're going to do a big thing next year in Germany.